guys, my name is Emily Daclan, and this is my first assignment. To begin, we're going to be looking at 70s funk, photography, posters, albums, and logos. So, as you guys can see here, there's a lot of high contrast, it's very energetic, and we definitely see some icons like Chaka Khan. And then moving on, we also see some logos and some albums, maybe of lesser known people, like Ben Moore. And it's very distinct, it's very different, right? So you have that photography, that more portrait style versus maybe some more colorful illustrative pieces, a combination of both. And then even for the logo site, you see a lot of diversity in it, where it's like very rounded, playful fonts versus like very geometric. But overall, especially with the clothing and the overall aesthetic, it's very vibrant, it's bold, embellished, playful, shiny, out there. Definitely wants to grab your attention. In terms of the music itself, it's energetic, rhythm, groovy, expressive, inviting. You just want to get up and dance. And so for my application, I do also want to make mine very bold and embellished and vibrant and energetic. Like you just want to dance with the album. And so when it comes to topography, it's also unique and diverse. There's a lot of subgenres of funk, like there's rock, psychedelic, gospel, and so the overall aesthetic and topography also changes. Whether it's really adorned, right, a display, a script, or it's really simple, like a sans serif. And even the weight tends to really be different for each album. As you can see here, I have listed 6 different examples, with Premiere and Candace being my personal 2 favorites. Now, transitioning into retro artists, specifically looking at examples of these applications, I chose Mike Salisbury. He's an icon in graphic design, and he began as an illustrator and photographer and slowly worked his way up to being an art director for various movies, music campaigns, and magazines, as you can see on the right. He also did a lot of albums, and so here is just 3 of the albums that I chose. On the left, you have high illustration, and on the right, you have full photography, with the middle being a blend of both. And in them, they're very different, but they also have a lot of similarities. Like you see that high contrast, and you see a lot of the text taking a back seat to the actual visuals of the artists. They tend to be a lot smaller, but they're still stylized. A lot of his work actually uses custom typefaces based on other popular ones at the time, like Copper Black or Avant-Garde. And they're all very distinct. Like you see it being a lot more curvy and rounded for Copper Black versus the Gaudi heavy face on the right is actually extruded. And so going based off of that, I'm going to look at a contemporary example, which would be Catherine Remnist. And she started around 2006. She's a graphic designer, and she solely works for Analog Africa, which is a music company, and she focuses on retro art. And so looking at some of her works here, you can definitely see that it's different, but takes a lot of inspiration from it. I would say one of the main things that I've noticed as different is that she really makes the title and the topography a lot bigger and larger than Mike Salisbury's work. Like it takes a front row seat, or it's more of a partner versus just something in the back. Yeah, and also just looking at her work, I see that high contrast and saturation, illustration and photography, sometimes exclusive or paired together, and she intentionally adds texture back to the images to make it look more vintage. She has fonts that feel appropriate, and she creates, again, that energetic, bold, expressive feel, even if it's not super colorful. And some of her work also is very vibrant. It feels very good for the times, and she uses a lot of common geometric shapes you would anticipate, as long as more like symbols and motifs. With that being said, I do want to replicate some of the things that Catherine has done in her work, like the high contrast, the illustration paired with photography I really want to do with textured images. And I do also want to curate that energetic, bold, expressive feel and use the appropriate fonts. But for me, I really want the size of the text to be a lot smaller in comparison to the rest of the visuals, because I really want to emphasize the visuals to curate that kind of mood and that tone. And I also want mine to be a lot more flamboyant and vibrant. I think that's just the band that I'm leaning towards. And I don't know if I'm going to use as many geometric shapes, but I'm probably going to include some sort of patterns. So yeah, that's my work. Here's my works cited, and thank you so much for listening.